boys and girls, students of Buddhist Sunday school and Dhamma classes, parents, grandparents, teachers of Buddhist Sunday school and Dhamma classes, and all youth members. Good morning. May you all be well, happy, and peaceful. Now, we are going to have a presentation on the life of Buddha Gautama, right? And this will be part one of a series of presentations pertaining to the life of Siddhartha Gautama, who became the fully enlightened Buddha later on. Now, this story is very important, inspiring, and there is also a lot of Dhamma in the presentation of the story that will motivate us, inspire us to follow the teachings of the Buddha and to lead a life based on the ideal of the Buddha. Now, the presentation will have the text in English and Chinese, but the narration will be completely in English. Now, as usual, we are going to have a PowerPoint presentation of some slides, and I will explain each of the slides. But before we do that, let me check the setup to make sure the presentation is okay. So the setup is all right. And now let us launch the PowerPoint. Now you see the cover slide or the title slide, and you have beautiful pictures which you can get from the internet, many pictures. So I've just picked these 5 that show the important events or the interesting events in the life of Buddha Gautama. All right. Now, so this is not the end of the story. It's only part 1. Then later on, we will go on some other time. We go on to part 2 and so on. So now let us move on to the story into slide number 2. So let us go on. So we are going to start telling the story, and I explain after the narration. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha to be, lived more than 2,500 years ago in India. In the year 623 BC. So now it's been more than 2,500 years ago already. I think more than 2,600 years ago already also. Now, his father was the Raja of the Sakya clan, King Sudodana, and his mother was Queen Mahamaya. Now, you see, in India during that time, they had the caste system, and then also they had also many, tribal groups, right? Different types, just as now you have different races, Malays, Chinese, and so on. So there was this group, or you can say a tribal set of people known as the Sakya. And the king, the Raja, actually not the king of the whole province, is just that group of people, Sakya clan. So his father was the head, so he was the Raja, Just like in Malaysia, you have one king, but you have many states with the Sultan, isn't it? But not all the Sultans are kings, only one king, the Agong, isn't it? So this is, but then we are so used to calling the father as King Sudodana. So the presentation you find referred to Sudodana, but it's not like the king like a Agong, but probably like a Sultan or a Raja like this. And his mother are also actually not really a queen like, the Raja Permaisuri Agong like that, right? Or the Queen of England for the whole country. But she married, King Suddhodana, so-called as queen like that lah. So they lived in India, northern India, in an area called Kapilavastu, and there was an ancient city at the foothills of the Himalayan mountains. Now, if you look at the map, you'll see that Kapilavastu, where Siddhartha spent his childhood days, he grew up in that area, is actually now, present day, at the border between India and Nepal. The place of birth Lumbini is now in Nepal, just at the border, but it comes under the governing of Nepal. But it's very, very close to India. You just got to cross the border and you get Lumbini. But Kapilavastu is still at the border in India. So this was a very peaceful place. I've been to that place, but now you cannot find the temples or the monasteries. They have all been destroyed. Invasion by other religionists and so on. And now you just see the tapak, right? Just the ruins of Kapilavastu. This one just shows the picture of King Suddhodana and Queen Maya. Very beautiful queen, actually. And you find that all these are just illustration. This one is actual picture. This one map is actual. But all these pictures that we're going to show you are actually just art pieces of different traditions. So you have the Indian style, you have Burmese style, right? You have Thai style, right? So it just gives you an idea, but bear in mind that actually that time no photography. So it was just artwork, and then people drew the thing. It makes the thing quite interesting. So that is this starting of the story. Now let us go on to slide 3. We have not moved it. Now we have slide 3. So King Suddhodana and Queen Mary for some, not Queen Mary, Queen Queen Mahamaya and this King Suddhodana, for some years they did not have a child. But one year, then the good news came that the queen conceived. Conceived means became pregnant. And according to, stories and legends, the queen had a dream of a white elephant from the Himalayas going around her, and she being fetched by the devas or the gods to the Himalaya area there to mate. All these. These are stories, right? Stories. So there is no real evidence to show that this actually took place. But it's not really that important, right? It's just an inspiring story to see an important event. But important thing is that she conceived. And of course, the husband and she were very happy. And then as the months went by, so when the time came, after 9 months of pregnancy, then she was ready to deliver, to give birth. So it was the Indian custom during that time for the wife to go back to the parents' place to give birth, to deliver the baby in the parents' place. It was an Indian custom. So she started the journey with all the attendants and so on. And that time, special taxi or cars and so on. So they had to go by horse carriage. And so they travel. But then came a time that she was about to deliver or to give birth already. And it was corresponding to the full moon day of the month of May, which we call Vesak Day today, So Vesak celebrates one of the 3 occasions. the birth of Siddhartha Gautama, then his enlightenment and his passing away into Nibbana. So this now we call as Vesak Day lah. It's actually the full moon day of the lunar calendar, the full moon in the month of May lah. Chinese we call it the fourth Chinese moon, the full moon lah, alright? How can we say like that, right? So she gave birth to a boy in Lumbini Park. And Lumbini Park in the city of Lumbini is now in Nepal, right? Now in Nepal. And you know, various pictures have been drawn, right, about the birth, right, saying that Queen Maya gave birth in the standing position. And when the baby Siddhartha was born, he was so special. As soon as he was born, he could walk. He took 7 steps, and then each step, one lotus flower came out. All these are stories. And then he also could speak, and he said that, he's the greatest of all, and this will be his chief. It will be his last birth. He could speak, So there again is no concrete proof that this event took place. But then, interestingly, there are now present-day records of certain babies born out could speak already. In parapsychology, you could read about accounts. So we cannot say that it is not possible, right? But anyway, it is an inspiring story, right? So you find a lot of concerts also on the life of the Buddha, show the baby Siddhartha walking 7 steps, each step a flower bloom up. And PBHP also had set up or had shown presentations of the live Buddha with this scene also, stepping and on the floor, and then the lotus flower bloom out. Very interesting. So she had no time to reach the parents' home. So after that, they had to return to the palace. So that baby now at the palace. So 5 days after the Prince Siddhartha's birth, the time of name was not given yet. So the king asked 5 wise men to come to the palace in a ceremony we call the naming ceremony. Just as Chinese babies celebrate 1 month like that. So this naming ceremony was quite significant. And the wise people, or the wise men, make prediction of what is to come for the baby, what the baby will turn out after you see. Right? And then during that time also, they suggested a name, and the name given was Siddhartha. The family name was Gautama, you see. So that's why Siddhartha Gautama. Just as, the Timor monastery is called VBG, Vihara. Vihara is like a monastery, right? Or a temple. Vihara Buddha Gautama. Because later on, became a Buddha, then we consider it as Buddha Gautama, because previous Buddhas had their names according to the clan, like Kassapa Buddha, or Buddha Kassapa, like that lah. So anyway, he was known as Siddhartha Gautama, and the meaning of Siddhartha means the one whose wishes will be fulfilled, or sometimes shortened as in some books written, wish fulfilled. That means what his impian, what his wish is, will come true, will come to be, wish fulfilled. So a very significant name, because you will see in the life that he wished to find the truth, isn't it? And so he had that wish and that aspiration, that mission which he carried out. So that is an interesting account of the name even. Now let us move on to slide number 4. Now 7 days after Siddhartha was born, his mother Queen Mahamaya died. Everybody was shocked and felt very sad. So it was a very sad sort of occasion that the mother of Siddhartha died after 7 days of the birth of Siddhartha. right? So then you'll be wondering, then who would take over? And then the stepmother was actually this Queen Mahamaya's sister lah, by the name of Pajapati Gautami. That's why, Mahapajapati Gautami lah. And sometime later, and after the Queen Maya had passed away, the King Suddhodana married the sister lah, of his late wife. The sister's name, Mahapajapati Gautami. There are also interesting stories about the uh, Mahapajapati Gautami, who became the first nun later on, you will see. And actually, she was a very, very nice lady. And she brought up Siddhartha. She brought up the son, the Siddhartha, just as the own son, Even though he's actually the stepson, right? The son was actually the of Queen Maya. So he was just treated like the own son. And she herself later on had one son also, I think it was Nanda, right? And so this scene, very sad scene, showing the death of Queen Mahamaya. Right. So then this is a very beautiful painting, showing the beautiful Pajapati looking after the very cute, handsome boy, Siddhartha Gautama. Right. So that time I told you already that during the naming ceremony, the wise men have predicted what would become. And among them, one of them predicted that he would become the fully enlightened one, And he gave there also details given in the prediction that the prince, Siddhartha Gautama, would see, right? Somebody old, somebody sick, a dead person, and a monk. Then, he would have that sort of strong wish to seek the truth, to become a monk, Instead of inheriting you couldn't say it's the kingdom because it was just that part, the second clan. Instead of becoming the head, right? You can say the Raja, instead of becoming the Raja to take over the property, the wealth, the palace of the father, King Suddhodana. So the father was worried. He was the head, the Raja of the second clan, isn't it? So, he was thinking of the son succeeding him. Of course, have the wealth, the palace, the land, all this. But not like the Agong, it's just like a sultan, you can say, that way. So, this picture shows that he was worried, thinking about one day, what happens if the son left his place to become a monk. Right? So he was very concerned because he wanted the son to succeed him as the Raja, isn't it? So this is the picture that shows this thing. So now what happens now? So all these pictures now will help you to have a visual image. You can understand better, and it makes the thing more interesting with some pictures. Now let us go on to slide number 5. So then Siddhartha grew up, right, in the area of Kapilavastu or Kapilavastu. Kapilavastu, I think, is Sanskrit, and Kapilavastu, it is Pali. So, I mean, the same place. So, he grew up in that area. Was a very peaceful childhood. And Kapilavastu, as we said just now, was an ancient city. Today, you hardly see a city. It's just like more ruins already. So Siddhartha grew up to be a very gentle, very kind, and compassionate person. Actually, he was going to be the Buddha to be, what we call a Bodhisattva, a Buddha to be. So, all right, from the young, he had this very gentle nature, very kind, subune lang. So you can picture. Now today you see some kids also like that, but very few. Right? So he was a different, very sort of a special character, very likable to them. So he was so compassionate, full of metta, loving kindness and compassion, karuna. So he always would take care not to do anything that can harm any living sentient being, no, the animals or all the insects. And then the other thing was he was very helpful in nature. He liked to help other people. So you see, he already got the characteristic of a bodhisattva, no? A bodhisattva cultivating all the good traits, like kindness, metta, compassion, all right, a very good heart, and so on. So there are many accounts of certain events in the prince's life that really showed his kindness. It's quite interesting reading, especially for children, right? So one day, you know what happened? The prince in the palace ground, you can say palace, the Raja also got palace, isn't it? Right? Not the, even Sultan also got palace, right? So one day the prince saw in the palace ground one of the town boys. No, sometimes these town boys will be allowed to come to the palace ground, huge ground, right? But he was actually not actually allowed to go out of the palace ground. No. The father, very protective of him, was afraid that he would see certain things outside and then he would leave and become a monk. So he was all his childhood more confined to the palace, a huge palace ground with a wall. So when this boy right, wanted to kill a snake, so Siddhartha was so moved by this. He was a prince, so he stopped the boy and told him not to harm, not to hurt the snake. This drawing shows how Siddhartha stopped the boy from harming or hurting, or even the boy had the intention to kill her. As most people, when they see snakes, they will kill the snake, right? So you see that this was a very touching scene, right? To show the compassion and loving kindness of Siddhartha. Now let us move on to the next slide, which is slide number 6. Number 6 shows a very interesting scene that has been described also in the Buddhist books. Very interesting account. One day, Siddhartha was playing with his friends in the palace garden. Right? Of course, there will be visitors and people coming to the palace to pay respect to the royal people, the queen and the king. And then one of the boys who came was his cousin, Siddhartha's cousin, Prince Devadatta. Of course, they also belong to the second clan, and also probably also you can say like royal blood like that lah. Devadatta, the cousin, but Devadatta was a different person completely from young. While Siddhartha was gentle and kind, Devadatta was by nature very cruel. And he liked to kill other creatures or to hurt other creatures, to harm other creatures. All right, from young, he had that sort of a more violent nature, egoistic nature. He could maybe get angry more easily. Very different, I can say the opposite. And then you see in Jataka stories, there have been very interesting stories about Devadatta's previous life. Together with Siddhartha's previous life. So they would encounter each other in the Jataka stories, the accounts. So while they were playing, you know what Devadatta did? He took his bow and arrow. Now you can see, those days they don't have guns, isn't it? So he took the bow and arrow and shot a bird, and the bird, according to the account, was a white swan. A swan, he could fly. So he shot at the bird and the bird flew couldn't fly already, fell down already. So Siddhartha was very, very touched. Poor bird, whose arrow was hurting him. Then actually, some accounts say that this Devadatta quickly collected the swan already. After this one, he's just showing a little sin. But then after that, Siddhartha said, you were the one who shot it, you heard it. So let me have it. The bird, I want to save its life. But this Siddhartha said, no, it's mine. I shot it. According to one account of the story, they had to go to a wise man in the palace to sort out the case, like a court case. So each presented the case. Then finally, the wise man said, this should go to Siddhartha, because Siddhartha has a kind heart, wants to save the bird. So he should have it. And not Devadatta that shot the swan, and don't know, maybe he wanted to kill it and then to cook it, right? Was badly wounded. So then, that's how Siddhartha got possession of this one. Siddhartha got the bird from Devadatta. And then he was so kind, he nursed the bird until the bird was completely cured, or you could say recovered. The wound was treated, everything. So you can see from this account that Siddhartha was very, very compassionate. And later on in life, you will see that as a Buddha also, he was so compassionate. And he, in fact, as a Buddha, he once said that he who serves the sick serves me. So it's so important for us from this lesson here that we must help people in need, all beings. This is only animal, and yet, this is an animal, but yet Siddhartha helped so much. What about people? People who are sick, who are injured. So, but if we can, then we should render help. That's why it's good to join like St. John's Ambulance or Red Cross and other bodies like that to render help to the people who are in need or injured. So then what happened was, when the swan was well again, the bird recovered already, then Siddhartha let it go free. Let it go free to fly to its natural habitat. And some people, they misunderstand this event. They say, oh, we must go and buy all those animals that are domesticated, that are kept in cages like the fish, and then the animals cage up, like for example, the birds or rabbits or what, and must free them, free them. That is not the same, This one, actually, he treated the bird and let the bird go free. But this one, you function, release lives, they go and catch all those people, all those animals like that one, and release, and then sometimes they release wrong places, they would kill. They would actually kill them. So, but anyway, I'm not talking about this. I've already done one presentation, I think, or maybe one writing about this releasing lives, an article I wrote on that. So that is a different thing. This one was out of compassion. He really released the animal after treating it. So now let us go on to slide number 7 now. So this is slide number 7. So Siddhartha, he was a very reflective type of person, always, think and observe. So in the palace grounds also, he saw, suffering also, especially in the animal world, he saw, wow, big birds eat small birds, and then also birds go and eat the chachin, and all those things in nature, he saw these things, that the smaller animals will be eaten by the one. So there's a suffering also among the smaller creatures. And then he saw also some people very sad, right? Some people, like not very healthy like that. He saw all these things, So he would think deeply, You see, he himself very lucky. This picture shows he thinking and pondering. He himself very lucky. In living in the palace with all the luxuries and so on. But he was very sensitive. He was sensitive towards the suffering of other people and beings. So he, in his mind, thought about the suffering in life. And he really felt sympathy, You can say also empathy, compassion for all the creatures that suffer pain. And one example, you see the swan was injured, having pain and suffering. So there was an interesting occasion called the Plough Festival. Now, during that time, the king, Sudatana owned, lots of fields, sawa, planting the paddy lah, or wheat lah, or other things lah. So they would have the plowing festival, they will have the planting one, and then the time would come when they could go and harvest the crops, right? To harvest the paddy lah, to pluck maybe even fruits or whatever lah, right? But basically plowing, and the time they will use the kerbau, or you can say the bull or the cow. So this one shows you the idea. So it was a big celebration. There will be dancers, dancing, singing, as the workers and the people from the royal palace. So the king brought the son along. And at the time, the son was probably between 7 to 10 years old. Some say 7, some say 10. But let us say that it's between 7 to 10 around that time. So, but the boy, very strangely, did not join in all the singing and dancing, all this, no. But he just wandered away and sat under a jambu tree, And then he went to meditate, and then he meditated, He could meditate, and according to the account, he reached the first jhana, very high level of meditation. How was he able to do that? He must have done this in the previous life, you see. So when I first read this account, I was very astonished. So I said, wow, young boy could meditate so well like that. Until I saw for myself in 1980 something, when I went for a meditation retreat in this Penang Meditation Center, and I saw a boy, but not, I think he was around standard 4 or standard 3. And he was a temporary monk, and he was sitting in front of me. He could meditate like that, Then I knew that this actually was true, this account, sitting cross-legged in deep meditation. Today, you see, even adults also find it difficult to meditate. Sunday school, those days, we had 200 or 300, and we had just meditation on loving kindness, mostly also found it difficult to concentrate. So he was very, very special, because he had actually cultivated and met with the Dhamma in previous life. So this life, he would become the Buddha. So there was this very interesting scene. Now let us go on to the next one, which is slide number 8 now. Slide number 8. So Siddhartha grew up, had his education. The accounts would tend to portray him like a macho figure, very good in sport and then archery and then sword fighting all those things. But actually those are just stories only. According to the scriptures, he was a very gentle person, right? And very kind. Not that type of war, very violent, aggressive, not like that as what is shown in some stories. Right? So he grew up to be a very good looking, all right, and fantastic good character with all the good qualities like a Bodhisattva. There's many good qualities, patience, kindness, love, compassion, and many others. And he had a contemplative nature. Contemplative means being always wanting to think about things on his own in silence and solitude, right? To ponder, to reflect over the things that he sees. This is contemplative, but today very few people have this nature. They cannot sit down still and ponder and reflect on issues of life. They will want to see TikTok Facebook dancing go for the sports, all this. So they cannot settle. But he was different. He had a contemplative nature. So he often did self-reflection to go into his mind and think what is the meaning of life, why so much suffering and so on. So then he grew up, and he was at the age of 16, and he was now of an age to get married. Because during that time in India, it was customary for the young people, even about 16, 17, to get married already. And it's not like, go and cari partners in parties like now we have. No. It was arranged marriage. So the parents would arrange for a partner for the son or the daughter. So the king, Suddhodana, arranged for Siddhartha to marry his own beautiful cousin, Princess Yasodhara. very beautiful one. Some accounts say that the king make a proclamation, all those eligible ones are of the good caste, they must have the high caste girls would come and then let Siddhartha choose. That was one account. So different stories, have different ways of showing. But this account that I got from Buddha Net said that there was a king who arranged for the beautiful Princess Yasodhara. But the fact is that he married Yasodhara. How the thing was done, everything, the details could vary. So imagine, you can see this one actually shows the contemplative nature of Siddhartha. That he would like to be alone and think of important things of life like that, contemplative. And whereas this one actually shows that, wow, great celebration of the marriage, Indian style, not Chinese style. So he was Indian, so he was Indian sort of Brahmin custom or things like that. So that's how he got married. So now, let us move on to slide number 9 now. So the king already, had the plan already, because now, he got married. I mean, he would be succeeding him. That's what he hoped. So the king is so very rich. So to stop the prince from thinking about unhappiness with all the, not so pleasant things that he might have seen, you can't avoid that, isn't it? Some people in pain and so on. And then he also, thought about the prediction by the wise man of him leaving the palace, So he thought of a plan to stop this, So, according to this account, he built a pleasure palace for Siddhartha and his wife Yasodhara. But there were accounts that say that he built 3 palaces. One is for staying during the winter time, one is for during the hot season, and then one is for the rainy season. India at the time, they got 3 seasons, right? The rainy season, the hot season, and then the cold season. So the hot season is terrible. You find temperatures might go up to 40 over degrees. So when we went to India, it was end of the year, so it was the cold season. It was cool and nicer. Then there will be a season raining. You continuously raining for 3 months or so like that. So you got these places to stay in during the 3 seasons, and it was a luxurious life with good food with attendants with all the beautiful girls dancing and singing to entertain him Not only entertain him, entertain all the people in the palace also right? But actually, it was basically for him also. And the king very strict. According to this account, they only allow all those healthy and young people, because they didn't want, he didn't want Siddhartha to see a very old person after Siddhartha would be, thinking again and wanting to live. So the king controlled the people allowed to go to the palace and the palace garden. So because basically the king in his mind was very afraid due to the prediction of the wise men to let Siddhartha see these facts of life, that everybody would get sick, grow old, and die. But he was a Buddhist sawa. He had this, the destiny was like that. So he was not really happy with all the luxurious life or the good food and dancing and so on. He wanted to know what life was actually like outside the palace walls, how people live. So he always would pester the father to let him go to the outside, the small towns and so on, right? This one is just showing the Shen Lao Bing Si. So actually just to depict what the king was afraid Siddhartha would see. So then let us go on to slide number 10 now. This is slide number 10. So after all the pestering, eventually the king allowed Siddhartha to go on short visits only to the nearby towns only. That means to leave the palace ground. The palace ground is also very huge already. And then of course he wouldn't allow him to go out alone and wander, right? So he had an attendant. And that attendant was by the name of Chana. You can say also the charioteer. Something like the driver, today we have the VIPs have their own drivers driving their Mercedes or, Ferrari or whatever lah, right? So, this picture shows very clearly that Chana, in those days no cars, so in the royal chariot, so fetched Siddhartha to go outside the palace ground to see life. And one of the things he saw, on his first visit, Siddhartha saw a white-haired, wrinkled, dressed in rags. He was a very old man. He had never seen such an old person. Of course, he had seen some old people like maybe his father, but not that old yet, to the extent that you see when a person gets so old already, he will be bent, and then trouble walking also, and then you find him looking very weak and so on. Well, he was very surprised to see this scene, He had seen some old people not that old. So, such a sight surprised him, as he had never seen anyone that old before. And the charioteer or his attendant Chana explained to him, this is an old man. Everyone will be old one day. Everyone. No one can escape this. So Siddhartha, when he heard the truth, felt very frightened by that also. Of course, this description, he used the word frightened. I think probably he was thought-provoking. He was thought-provoking for him, so he wondered a lot. Maybe as a young person, he was a bit frightened, perhaps, but it really concerned him. He really was really affected by this scene. So he asked Chana to take him back home. So he kept thinking about what he had seen, that very old person, and he could not sleep well also. He kept thinking about old age, because Chana had told him everybody will come to this stage, right? Will grow old, unless they die earlier lah. Or that one will come later, you see. So when you're talking about the usual thing, people can grow old, but there are some who die young also, right? You don't reach that stage, but generally a general principle, all right? So you can see another scene here. I put two pictures to show very beautiful colored paintings, the old person. So now let us go on to the slide number 11 now. Now, slide number 11. Just now we had so what happened was this. Although Siddhartha felt frightened, the version that I used, I used the word frightened, or maybe very, very affected, very concerned, or very touched, and maybe some pride also, maybe possible, right? Because of the vision of getting old, to think and ponder about it, of getting so old, to be so terrible, difficulty walking, difficulty seeing, and all those things, so weak, all this. So then he wanted to know the truth, He was a Bodhisattva in search of the truth, So he wanted to see more of the outside world. There will be many things that he could actually learn from outside. So then on his next visit, he saw a man lying on the ground and moaning, crying, and wailing, because he was in pain, right? And actually he was a sick man, very sick, right? So then Siddhartha, I told you, was very compassionate. So he actually rushed out over to the man to try to console him or help him, attending to the sick like that, But Chana warned him, he said, be careful, that man is very, very sick, I don't know whether Chana told him that the virus or bacteria might spread to him. I don't know. But anyway, warned him that this actually was a very, very sick person. And then Chana told him the truth. He said, everyone, even noble people like you, Siddhartha, or the king, could get sick, which is the truth. Can you think of somebody who never got sick from the time the fellow was born? Impossible, isn't it? The body is such. Even actually the Buddha or Arahan, all these, so they would also grow old physically and then would also get the sickness. But the mind is different. You see later on in other versions, other parts, you will see what happens when the mind is enlightened. But the body, everyone, right, will grow old. Not only human beings or animals or plants, every living thing also will grow old, you see. Correct or not? So Chana told him, wow, he was, pondering and thinking, wow, could become sick, so terrible. And this is another scene. This one is probably Thai art, That's why you can see the difference. This is the Indian art, and this is the Thai, and then the Burmese have their version, Now you have different version, you can check internet, you can see different, you just got to search, Siddhartha seeing the sick person, you have lots of pictures already, right? Right. So now let us go on to now number 12 now. Slide number 12. Now, so what happens? That will be the third visit. But you find interestingly, some books tell the four sights. This important event is called the four sights. That means Siddhartha seeing four things. So some versions give the story as if that in one outing, you could see all the four things. So he came across the old person, he came across the sick person, and then after that, another two. But this account talks about different visits. First visit, second visit, third visit, another occasion, what did he see? So you read different books, you find sometimes variation. But I think that all agree is that he saw these four things. Right? He did see how actually same day or, different day or 4 weeks or all this, you can't really prove it. Right? But he saw these four sights, what we call. So on the third visit, Siddhartha and Chana, you know what they saw? They saw 4 men carrying another man on a stretcher. Actually, it was a funeral, a simple funeral that time. That person had died already, you see. So Siddhartha was he had not seen a funeral thing in the palace ground. So he said, what is that? What is that? Asked Chana. Then Chana told him, that man is dead. And they are going to not cremate him. It was the custom, the time to burn the body, you see. So they are carrying him usually to the river bank, the river Ganges bank there, right? Nowadays like that. But that time, it will be, maybe, one of the areas where they could burn the body, right? So that is the dead person. Then he told him, Channa told Siddhartha the truth, that no one can escape death, and told the prince that everyone will die one day. Wow, of course, probably he never thought of that so deeply. He might know it, but then he never, like the sight of this sort of stir in his mind some very, very strange or very profound feelings of this death, So when they returned to the palace, after Siddhartha had seen this third sight of death, somebody dying, right? Then he was thinking deeply. He kept thinking and thinking about what he had seen. He said, why should a person die like this? What is the cause? And all those things. Then he really sort of had in the mind the strong decision. He said, I must find a way out of this suffering of old age, sickness, and death. He had seen these three, right? He said, because Channa told him that everybody will grow old, everybody will be sick, and then everybody will die. So he said, is there a way where we can stop this suffering? Right? It was terrible because he himself would face that, and all his loved ones, all living things also were dead. What is the reason? That means he was questioning all life and the meaning and purpose of life. Why is there suffering? It was all these thoughts because he had actually cultivated in previous life, in the last life. Of course, he was born out from Tusita heaven, but in one of the life before he was in Tusita, before he was with the Kasapa Buddha. Kasapa Buddha, he was the disciple. That's why the memories all still at the depth of the mind, waiting for the conditions to ripen for him to take that step. Inevitable, it would happen, you see. Now, this one actually also is a very interesting Burmese painting, right? That this one included the very, very sick person, old person already. But this one is the scene, saw the dead person on the body. The dead person, the corpse. lying there. Anyway, all the pictures all show different versions, but actually it's the sight of a dead person. That is this scene. Actually, you see this, you don't have to be afraid because that's natural thing. We have been doing this funeral services. I've been doing this for more than 20 years. I've been doing this for 20 over years. Every time I look into the coffin, there'll be the dead body. Then I will tell myself, hey, no matter of time, don't know when it will be my turn, right? So then you know, we must live a life that is useful, meaningful, don't do the wrong things, and so on. Then you will be more keen to learn and practice the Dhamma. So this contemplation is a good thing. Today, sad to say, many people caught up in the world of TikTok lah, chit-chatting lah, Facebook, all this. Not to say you can't do all those things, but then they don't have time for more serious type stuff or some religious principles they have to study lah. Now let us go on to number 13 now. So what happened? Sometime later. You see, this version says that it was sometime later. But actually, we are not sure when the fourth sight came, right? We're not really sure. But we know that from the scriptures that the last sight was important because the last sight gave the final push for him to take a very major decision. And let us read the account and I will elaborate on that and explain. So sometime later, while the prince was riding in the garden, right? Got in the garden. Probably, I don't know. I would say that it will be outside the wall of the palace, but outside also got gardens, isn't it? A garden. Because I don't think the king would allow a monk to come into the palace ground. He was afraid that after, but now he had gone out 3 times to visit, so they probably went out a 4th time, right? So I would say that it's again outside the wall, and he went with the charioteer again. You see, he went with the charioteer. So if he's in the same palace ground, probably he would be wandering along and then saw it. So I would say that he went out on the 4th visit, you can say, and he saw a man in a yellow robe. And he noticed that the man looked, so very peaceful and happy, And Chana explained to him that the man was a monk. During time, he was not a Buddhist monk, but during that time, they had other religions like Jainism and Brahminism, Hinduism. So they also had their monks, or you can say priests. They also sometimes would, dress. But of course, this picture just shows as if it's a Buddhist monk. But at that time, Buddhism had not started, you see. So they also had, their robes, maybe yellow or orange color, and then also dressed in very simple way. So you could say a monk, or you can say a priest, a Brahmin priest, or you can say a monk, no problem, but to me, you see. So then Chana explained to him that this man had left his family, and it was the Hindu custom also. A person after, marriage already, and then would have the children, take care of the children. Then came a stage, older stage, he would leave the family to go and practice his religion, it was a good thing. Because everything all established is done is part already. But today you cannot. You find people have changed already. So the monk had left his family and he had given up his desire for pleasures to search for freedom from worldly suffering. So he explained as a monk. And then Siddhartha listened very carefully, Wow, he's so profound. Never had he seen such a peaceful, happy, gentle, serene, sturdy, equanimous person. So when I first read this account, I was thinking, wow, very interesting. And then over the years, I've been to even India or even Malaysia, could see it also, or in Thailand and other places. I encountered such types of monks. You encounter them, you see, wow, so radiant, so peaceful. I think you have heard of the account of, one of the richest men in Malaysia, all right, Ananda Krishnan, and his only son, Sri Panyu, So renounced and became a monk. We have met him a couple of times in global conferences. When you encounter him, then you know why he left all the things. He didn't want all the rich things. The father wanted to give him all the, in control the time. Now still in control probably of Astro lah, Maxis lah. Very wealthy, but he didn't want all these things. He left all these things to renounce, and he has been a monk for, I think, more than 20 years now already. And when you meet a person like this, then you really know that there is such a person, and they have cultivated to such good extent, so peaceful, so happy, so kind, everything, So Siddhartha, that way, so when I think back over the years, I think that this account, even today, we can see that. So it's really, really true. You see? So the prince was very inspired. Wow, he saw this after the three sides all very sad one. Then he saw the fourth side was so inspiring. Then he made up his mind already, right? That he wanted to leave the home already, to renounce chukya lah, right? And what is the purpose? To search for freedom, to search for the truth, to find out why there is suffering, how we can escape suffering, the suffering of old age, sickness, and death. That is what he had in the mind. But that day itself, when he already made up his mind, wanted to leave the palace, the wife gave birth to a lovely baby the same day, And the baby, as you know, the name was Rahula, and did a posting on the story of Rahula, who also later became a monk. So he gave birth, So they reported, he had already gone back, right? So he went back and they reported to him, oh, your wife had given birth to a lovely baby boy, Rahula. Most of people will be very, very happy, right? Wow, I got a son already, I got a baby boy. But not Siddhartha, he could not rejoice. Because in his mind, he already decided to leave the palace and to renounce and to search for the truth. No doubt, as he still, had the feelings as present life. You have the past thing, the present, and what it is now also, all these things in the mind, So he still loved the wife, he still loved the wife, but yet he also had this very strong yearning, wanting to live, right? Wanting to find the truth, and compassion for all. Not only love for the wife and the son, but he's loving for all people who are suffering and wanted to help them, that sort of feeling, So then he was thinking that he actually wanted to become a monk. But now the son, Rahula, is born already. So he will become a factor. A factor means something that ties you down already. Something that ties you down already. You got an obstacle already, halangan already. You got a baby son to help to look after. No doubt, of course, the palace, they have all the servants, and then, of course, King Sudarana and the queen. So they could look after also, and the wife. But still, torn, So that concludes this presentation, the first part of the story. When Siddhartha found it difficult, but did he leave or not? Of course, the story. He left, all right? And the coming stories later on will be even more exciting and more meaningful. But actually, the whole life history is very fantastic. So the story would end here. But before that, we go to the last slide. They will ponder a bit, right? By the way, you can see this the scene of the wife Yasodhara giving birth already, and then lying with the baby, that sort of thing just. But then what about Siddhartha? He already decided he wanted to leave, isn't he? Right? So would he come to see, or what would happen? So now let us go on to the last slide already. That is slide number 14. Now, Of course, you see, I have the background of the four sides. You can see the background I chose of the four sides of the old man, then the monk, the sick person. Anyway, all those things that you have seen. Old man, sick man, and then also a dead person, and then the cultivated monk. There's a background. So when we reflect on this, we make we hope that you'll be inspired. So we ponder and say, may we be inspired because once you're inspired by the life of Buddha, you want to pursue also along the direction to practice his teachings, isn't it? Because you will see the end of the story, you found the truth, isn't it? So then we make the aspiration that may we strive on in the Dhamma to end dukkha. So I put it in the couplet rhyming lines so that, they read nice. They are nice to read. May we be inspired by the life of Buddha. May we strive on in the Dhamma to end dukkha. Dukkha is suffering. So Buddha, dukkha, rhyming. So we have come to the end of the first part in the life of the Buddha. Then do not forget to look out in the future. I don't know which presentation. I won't do continuously. Maybe the next one will be another, maybe a story, Jataka story or whatever. But definitely there will be a part 2 and perhaps also part 3, right? But it's okay. You can read at one portion, then another portion, you can still catch the whole flow. Right? So before we say sadhu 3 times, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you boys and girls, students of Buddhist Sunday School and Dhamma classes, and all the youth members, parents, grandparents, and also all the teachers of the Buddhist Sunday School and Dhamma classes. So thank you and sadhu to all of you for taking time. It's been more than 1 hour to follow this presentation, Life of Buddha Part 1. Right? So I thank all of you. And now let us put our palms together and say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To all of you who have been following this presentation, sadhu, may you all be well, happy, peaceful, healthy, and may you be inspired to continue learning and practicing the Dhamma. Take care.